Shanti, what coverage and exclusions and standard policies apply to COVID-19 losses?
That's another great question. Everybody's talking BI, business interruption, business interruption, business interruption. You've blogged about it, and it's really important. There's an article in the newspaper today about the dentists and threats to cancel their policies because of business interruption. But the fact is, in an average CGL, business interruption has to be linked to a covered peril, like a fire or a flood. And COVID-19, on the basic wording of most policies, you're not going to get that trigger. You're not going to get the event that's required to get to that business interruption loss limit. So that's kind of the sad news. But in the past, we have to remember that insurance companies are resilient. They're huge charitable constantly because they're regulated. So it wouldn't surprise me if, despite the wording is what it is, we see insurance companies coming to the table and providing some kind of coverage for the small businesses that are the backbone of our economy. Right. Other kind of, I mean, and you can see in the US, they've opened up and loosened the definition of physical loss to get that trigger, but I don't see that happening here. For really, sorry?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, for really large businesses, some of them have manuscript policies and they've already anticipated a pandemic and they may have coverage, they have wording, but they're pretty elite insureds. There's civil authority coverage, and that comes into play when a government restricts your business from being able to carry out what it does to earn money. But again, that's usually triggered by that physical loss or that peril that COVID-19 might not fall under. There's also political risk, and that's can affect if you're working overseas and governments have made some decisions that are going to affect your business. It's possible that we'll see hotels, for example, getting claims where someone has said, look, I stayed at your hotel, I got the virus there. They're going to have to be careful for pollution exclusions, which are common that way. So, I mean, ultimately, there are tons of wording out there that I'm sure people are going to get really creative with. But every claim has to just be decided on its facts and with the wording of the policy and the law at the time on an individual basis.
Right. My concern is that even with policies that purport to insure against contamination or infectious disease, which I understand is kind of a rare peril that you can insure against, but it is a possibility, that from a practical perspective, there's always a deductible period of either a week or 2 weeks. And so I'm really interested to see how that plays out with COVID-19, because, for example, if you are insuring a business with this and you've covered COVID-19 as a peril, either by infectious disease or by contamination, the business presents with COVID-19 at its facility or on a person at its facility, and there's a deductible period of 2 weeks. Seemingly, you could disinfect the business within that 2-week period. And then perhaps I wonder if the business would no longer be eligible for coverage as a result.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. It's kind of different. And at this stage, we're hearing new information about how the disease is spread all the time. You know, from a personal note, I've been trying to buy bleach. I did buy a big bottle a couple of weeks ago, and my daughters thought it would be fun to bleach their clothes. So we have some lovely tie-dye apparel, but unsanitized doorknobs. But I mean, I say that in jest, but yeah, priorities. But in all seriousness, and I know you've talked about this in your travel loss blog as well, there's going to be questions about what you can do even if you wanted to. So you take your example, and we've all seen people in food chain grocery stores having extra staff wiping down that freezer door every time someone opens it. But at what point is there going to be a shortage of supplies for those workers to safely do that work, a shortage of cleaning materials? You know, when you go to worst case scenarios, a shortage of workers. You know, you get the situation where one person has it. We know what that means where there's little hubs. So that's a really good question, and time will tell.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Time will tell. We really are in uncharted territories. And part of that, as you mentioned or alluded to, extends to the economy. So people have lost their jobs. And we've seen already before this a huge uptick in the gig economy, particularly with respect to millennials. And what we're seeing now, I think, or what we expect to see, is people perhaps who've been laid off using their personal vehicles to deliver food as a means by which to generate income. How concerned should insurers be about that?
Yeah, that's really on point. I mean, we saw this last week in Canada. Walmart Canada hired 10,000 people because the need for delivery drivers has just surged, and that's only going up and up. And I think you're right, Sonya. There's going to be people who are making lemonade out of lemons and going out and getting these jobs. But the reality is you are materially changing your risk potentially on your insurance policy. And the insurance bureau has already told those drivers, you must phone your broker or your insurance company and let them know if you're doing that kind of work, because it could be you need more coverage. Will your premiums increase is what everyone wants to know. Well, yeah, they may, but that pales in comparison to finding out that you have a bad accident and it's not covered, or your policy has been voided because you have a duty as an insurance company and as an insured of the utmost good faith, and that duty is a two-way street. So definitely make that call. It's only temporary, hopefully, that you're going to have that increased work, and or you know you can demand it from Walmart. You know who's going to cover me if I get into an accident. But it's definitely a question that you need to raise with your broker and insurance company, and they're all open right now, so there's no reason you can't do that.
Right, because insurance is essential, as we said earlier, right? So insurance is essential, insurers are open. There's really no excuse not to make the call and to advise them of the change of the vehicle.
Yeah.